Welcome. The Tuesday, February 19th, 2019, Eden Prairie City Council is now called to order. Normally we would rise at this time, but we're honored this evening to have Troop 695 of Prairie Lutheran Church present the colors.
I am Solveig Koliani of Troop 695. Mayor and City Council, we are ready to present the colors.
Present the colors.
Color detail, attention. Forward march. Mayor and City Council, we are ready for the Pledge of Allegiance. Present colors. Hand salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color guard 2. Color guard forward march. Color guard halt. Color guard post the colors. Fall out.
Thank you, Troop 695 of Prairie Lutheran. Just a brief announcement about our open podium opportunity for our residents. Open podium is an opportunity for Eden Prairie residents to address the City Council on issues related to Eden Prairie City government before each council meeting, typically the first and third Tuesday of each month from 6:30 until 6:55 p.m. in the council chamber. If you wish to speak at open podium, it's helpful to us and you if you contact the city manager's office prior at 952-949-8412 by noon of the meeting date with your name, phone number, and subject matter. If time permits, after scheduled speakers are finished, the mayor will open the floor to unscheduled speakers. Open podium is not recorded or televised. If you have questions about open podium, please contact the city manager's office. So tonight we have a few proclamations and presentations. Mr. Getcho.
I will turn things over to Mr. Lotthammer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Council members, tonight several donations. First one being from the Lions Tap, and this is a year in and year out donation at this time. It's for $2,000, and it goes towards many of our special events and concert programs. They then are recognized at all of those events, and we really appreciate their support and long-lasting and continued support.
Do we need a resolution on that? Do you just need a
resolution?
Say what?
There is a resolution in the packet.
Yeah, I'm looking for wording of it, but you've got it? Great,
Yep.
Excellent. Could I have a motion on the resolution?
I would move to accept the donation of $2,000 from Lions Tap for Parks and Recreation special events.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, Mr. Lotthammer.
Yes, this donation is for $325 from Home Instead Care, Senior Care. It goes towards our shredding event, also our Valentine's breakfast, and the golf classic at the Senior Center to support those and enhance those events. Appreciate their contribution.
Great. Is there a motion to accept this in resolution form?
Accept the donation of $325 from Home Instead Senior Care for events at the Senior Center.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any conversation? Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Next, Mr. Lotthammer.
Yes, the last donation is for $350 from Oasis Senior Advisors, and that is going directly towards the Valentine's breakfast at the Senior Center. So really appreciate it.
Great. Motion, resolution form to accept this donation.
I would move to accept the donation of $350 from Oasis Senior Advisors for Valentine's Breakfast at Senior Center.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, moving on to the approval of the agenda and other items of business. Are there any items before we make the motion to either add or to question? Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Approve it,
Second.
thank you. Is there a second? Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on, I believe I'll take a motion to, well, let me ask, are there any questions or items to question on either of the workshop or the council meeting minutes? If not, I'll entertain one motion to accept them both.
Move to approve the city council workshop meeting minutes for February 5th, as well as the city council meeting minutes for February 5th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Moving on to consent calendar. Mr. Getchell, is there anything that you want to add to that prior to entertaining a motion?
I do not, Mayor.
Okay. Any items that any of the council members wish to pull for discussion or to at least talk about? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to accept and approve the consent calendar?
Move approval of item A to F on consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we do have two public hearings this evening, which is now becoming a little bit more rare. We've had a few meetings without them, so I'm glad to have them back again. And also really happy to have development in our city tonight. This is exciting. So Mr. Getchell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, the first public hearing is a planned unit development proposal here. Wooddale Builders is requesting approval of a subdivision of a 5.9 acre property into 17 single-family lots and 7 outlots. The property is located at 9650 Stable Path, which is just north of Crestwood Park on Dell Road. The proposed project would include a new east-west road extension of Dell Drive to Stable Path. The applicant is proposing villa-style homes, and the lots range in size from 80,000 square feet, 80, yeah, ooh, that'd be big. 8,300 square feet to about 13,000 square feet. You'll hear more about that in a second. We do have the developer here to provide an overview of their project, Mayor, and then the staff and the developer can answer any questions that you may have prior to holding a public hearing.
Great. This is a public hearing this evening. Would you, do we want the developer first to
Yeah.
initially? Yes. Mr. Sweeters, if you would give your presentation. Thanks for being here.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Steve Schwieters from Wooddale Builders, owner. Wooddale has done quite a few things in Eaton Prairie. I think this would be our 17th different development that we've done here through the last 30-some years. So we're proud to be back and excited about this new project. First of all, 9560 Stable Path is the location. I got this right here? Okay. A little bit about Wooddale, which I've introduced. The site overview. We're looking at 5.9 acres. We're looking at 17 family villa style lots. This product is an empty nester type product. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go. We have 7 outlots, which are to the north property line here. Talk about that a little more. We've got a gas line that's running down the property, down the center. We have 40-foot side setbacks for each side of that. Lot information, our standard size lot, which we had mentioned. The standards for the R1 9.5 lots is 70-foot wide lots, 9,500 square feet. Front yard setback is 30, rear setback is 20, side yard setback is 5 on each side, or 5 minimum, and a total of 15. We have a 50-foot right-of-way, and we have a 20-foot wide street, back to back. The proposal tonight is we're proposing 60-foot wide lots, a minimum lot size of 8,000 square feet, front yard setback of 25, rear yard setback of 20, and side yard setback, we would meet the 15, but we'd propose 7.5 and 7.5. We'd still have the 50-foot right-of-way, and then 28 feet on the street. They're requesting waivers for this development. Minimum lot size, 8,000 square feet. The smallest would be, here would be 8,300. Minimum lot width would be 60. Also lot 8, which I'll go back. Actually, I'll go forward a little bit. Lot 8 is here, is the proposed corner lot, which we are looking for. That is also a 60-foot wide lot, but we're looking for a side setback for a side lot property setback. Because of this large area, it's not going to affect stable path. Lot sizing, the smallest lot is 8,300 square feet. The largest lot is 13,187. Average lot size here that we're proposing is 11,366. The Magellan gas line easement is 80 feet. On Thomford Trail, which is off of Cole Drive, the development to our north, we are vacating that proposed street. We've met with the neighbors over there numerous times, and I pretty much have got everything worked out as far as meeting the requirements for the vacation driveway. There's a side driveway that has to have a 4-foot side easement or 4-foot side setback, which I think that the requirement is 3, but we're going 4. And the long and the short is this road is being completely vacated. The city is requiring us to, take up the road, remove the existing curb and gutter, remove water main, relocate the fire hydrant, which we're relocating across the street here, or here. Abandon the sanitary sewer, install new curb and gutter on Cole Court, and we are dedicating to the neighbors both of those particular addresses. We are providing that, like I'd mentioned, new driveway at 18109 Cole Court. Relocate storm sewer. To the north of the property, we have outlots. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 outlots that we are proposing to give to the existing property owners that are to the north on Cole, to make that part of their property. That's also going to be the area where we're going to be planting quite a few trees, and I'll show you that in the landscape plan. Here's the gas line again. Tree replacement plan. We're proposing 427 inches of replacement. 4-inch trees, 37. 3-inch trees, 93. There is a list of trees here that's hard to read on the types and things, but we've run them through city staff and they've approved that. Here to the north, where that 10-foot and easement is, it's showing a lot of trees that we're proposing. The existing tree line is now on the Cole Court property line, is pretty scarce. So the homeowners are pretty excited to see that many trees get planted in that area. And then obviously we have tree plantings throughout the development. One of the things that I did talk to staff about a little bit, and they were a little negative on it, was this diamond-shaped area, because we do have utilities there. I'd like to plant a fair amount of, or a few trees there, so that we can screen that area and make it look a little better. Little bit about the product. Again, we're about 1,900 to 2,000 square feet. We're slab on grade. We're gonna have options. We'll have 4-season porch. We'll have 2.5 front-loaded garages. We'll have 2.5 car side-loaded garages. We'll have side-load 3-car garages. We have some possibilities that people might request a second floor loft, smaller loft area. First floor, we do have 2 bedrooms. We do have a first floor study in that square footage. We will have association maintain a development, so meaning sprinklers, snow removal, landscaping, sod maintenance, exterior maintenance, and garbage will be part of the association. A little bit more about the product. Just give you a brief overlay. When we talked to city planning, they were interested in seeing some different variations in the product, meaning different elevations. Here we're showing kind of that modern farmhouse look, black windows, board and batten, and would be all white with the dark windows. It's kind of in today. All of the units will have front porches, and all of the units will have either a rear screen covered porch or a 4-season porch. Different front elevations. We're going to have probably about 8 different colors for the exteriors. We're going to have, about 6 exterior colors and 8 different stone variations for the buildings. It's going to have all black roofs, and the windows will either be all white or all black. Those are the 2 colors. Trim on every building will be white. White garage doors. Here's kind of an elevation showing what we've done in Bloomington, which shows a side load garage. And it shows a little bit of variation of some different products. We haven't nailed down the final products. We want maintenance free. So this particular elevation is showing a board and batten. They are aluminum soffit and fascia, which is maintenance free. But this particular home has got a high-end vinyl shake siding, which the other option would be is we're going to use Hardy products, which would be job site painted, but then again, would be maintenance. So we're still working through that. This just gives you a little idea of what we've done in other areas. This is showing a Bloomington development with all on the bluff, all side-loaded garages, lots of different elevations, and that's what we're proposing that this project will look like. Get a little bit closer shot there of all side-loaded garages. Now, city staff did make a comment that they wanted us to change up the driveways. In other words, don't all have them facing going down the street. Well, I'm opposed to that because it's a nice look once you get everything built, especially if you're doing side-load garages. If you have front-loaded garages, I would agree that it's kind of a negative, but once we get the marketing started, I think that most people purchasing over there are going to want the side-load garages. Gives you an idea of our floor plan. We do have a master suite, secondary bedroom, master bath, master closets, first floor study, kitchen, dinette, great room open, and then the covered back porch, which would have an option for 4-season. We do have landscape plans proposed, standard, for both the front-loaded garages as well as the side-loaded garages. And we are at this time really probably looking to get concrete driveways versus asphalt, but again, we're still in the price mode, so we'll work through those details. Other than that, that's my presentation. I'm open for questions.
Councilmember Nelson?
About what is the price point on these that you're expecting?
Well, initially, in all honesty, we're trying to hit 550, but I know we're pushing 585 to 650.
Given the small size of the lots, why is it so expensive? Because obviously, if you had regular sized lots, you would be talking about maybe 15 houses. And it's nowhere near even the average price in Eden Prairie at this point. And it's a lot higher than similar style homes, though some of them may be a number of years old. But I like the smaller side lots and such to, make the style of home, but usually that goes with a little lower price points. The average house in Eden Prairie is more in the 400,000 category. You could see 450 or something, but 585 with the very low or lower land costs given your size. How does that work?
Well, like I had mentioned earlier, I mean, we're building these units in Bloomington. The earlier picture I showed you with the side-loaded garages, those lots were 60-foot wide lots as well, and they all had side-loaded garages. And those price points were anywhere from $750,000 to $1.2 million. In Plymouth today, we've got a project that's got, I think we have 12 villa lots and 42 townhome lots over there. The average price point in that project is $650,000 starting, and it goes up to $1.2 million. And these are also 60-foot lots for people, empty nester type products. That's what they're looking for. Smaller lots, less maintenance, great communities, nice neighbors, and they want one level living, because most of these people are retired or slightly working, but they'll probably have another secondary home somewhere else, a little warmer than here, but that's typical, very typical. But yes, we are price conscious of what, but with land cost and development cost and everything else, it just keeps going up.
But it's only 2,000 square feet, not the 3,000 square feet that a lot of the others are around town.
Well, most of our products, and that's a big question, why did we do slab on grade here? Well, the land is flat. We don't have a walkout situation. We've got clay soil conditions, so if you're putting basements in, and will somebody come along and ask for a full basement? It might happen, and it's fine if we put them in, but it's going to be window wells and it's going to be a basement. Not going to have walkout. I would think, based on our studies and what our salespeople have looked at and what we know of, based on, we've done numerous projects, you know, and I've done other slab-on grades in Eden Prairie, some of the stuff over off of Hennepin Town Road, and those were some big units, and they still sell well today, is very advantageous. So people don't want much more. I mean, we're building a lot of 3,400 square foot units, and we hear with basements, and we hear it constantly, we don't want this much, you know, we want smaller. So I think that 2,000, 2,100 square feet is gonna be perfect.
Have you considered adding solar as an option to these?
If somebody would want it, we can do it, I guess is what I would comment on.
But you're not suggesting it as an option for most, then?
No, I guess not.
Do these have other green aspects in them?
Well, we have, you know, today, codes are such, you know, the insulations and everything else that we're putting in these units today is so high-end, and they're energy efficient. Anything from the heating material, the products, the furnaces, the water heaters, everything today is, yes, high-end and high efficient.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilmember Narayan.
Well, first of all, thank you for building 17 units in that area. I had the opportunity to go and visit. Couple of questions I have is there is some large trees there, and I guess you had to cut that down, right? And then you're replacing with newer trees.
Yes. Unfortunately, there are some significant trees. We're working with Sather Berquist, who does a great job as, you know, as planning and trying to work around saving a few of those significant trees. But we have a tight location, and we are removing trees and we're planting a lot of trees.
One thing I was not clear, maybe I didn't read through detail. What will be the distance between the two houses?
Would be, well, 7.5 and 7.5 would be 15 feet.
So it's just pretty close side-by-side houses.
That would be the standard, yes. And they could be a little more than that, depending upon, you know, which side, because our 38-foot wide units, we do have excess more than 15 feet. So unless, you know, somebody comes along and says, I want 2 more feet, I think we've got 2 more extra feet. So in some areas, it's going to be 17 feet between.
So the question probably to the staff, do we have any other development that close between two houses? Any concerns?
Very typical in this type of product line, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Councilmember Narayan.
Thank you. The other question I have is the gas line going behind the houses, right? And how close is that to the house, the gas line, and any potential risk there?
Well, in most cases, we have 5 feet behind our porches, so another 40 feet. So we're averaging about 45 feet from that pipeline. And from the whole court property line, it would be 40 plus the 10, so it'd be 50 feet there.
Okay. You mentioned there will be 8 different colors for 17 houses. Is that, I'm just curious, is that too much? It'll be really multicolor for 17 houses.
Well,
Did I read that right?
Regrouped. It's 8 different stones.
Okay.
And I think we have 5 different colors, meaning like beiges and whites and grays is very popular today. There'll be a light gray, dark gray, and a charcoal color. So
I think this question is follow up with Kathy's question in terms of sustainability. Are you planning to, from the get-go, having LED lights and water conservation aspect in this building? Or the owner later on had to convert all that themselves?
I didn't quite get the question. Am I doing water?
Yeah, so do you have any provision to minimize the water usage in the house, or the lighting, more low energy, high efficiency lighting, like LED lighting and so on?
Well,
that-
again, codes have changed. So all of the light fixtures, recessed lights, all of the bulbs, all have to be LED approved and listed for every unit. Is there any special water? I'm going to say no.
Thank you.
Before we open this up to the public, any other council? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. Councilmember Freiberg.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple questions. I just want clarification a little bit. I see the city requirement was 426 inches of trees that had to be replaced, and you're going to do 427.
Yeah.
Right. We're talking now this triangle lot to the east, that you wanted to put some additional trees.
Yes.
Okay.
Here?
I just wanted to clarify if what you wanted to do, is that on top of the 427 or part of it? That's the first part of the question.
That would be part of it.
Okay.
You know, as far as using, we are really, I'm going to use the word cramming trees to get that many inches in there. So I'd like to space it out a little bit more. There are a lot of significant trees already along the park line back here. Those aren't trees that we're planting, they're already there. So without getting too many trees, I'd really like to get some nice screening here, and hopefully we could work with the city, working around the utilities, and there's a power line there, but maybe get some screening there.
Then the second part of my question would be directed to staff on, what was the pushback on that?
Councilmember Freiberg. So there are utilities that are located in that property. I believe that's city property. It's not the developer's property. And I can guarantee you, when we go to rebuild Dell Road in the future, we will have to do stormwater treatment. And trying to find sites where we can manage our runoff and do the treatment is very difficult. And I don't like having to condemn private property to build those facilities. So I know that we will use that in the future. And if there's trees there, then we're essentially taking down trees. Homeowners wouldn't be happy about that, and I think that could create its own set of conflicts in the future.
Absolutely understood. Thank you.
Anyone else? We can have more council inputting comments after the public hearing. So hang on to them and write them out. So this is a public hearing. Are there any people in the audience who wish to address the council on this issue tonight? Please come forward, give your name and address.
Hello. Mike Burns, 18091 Cole Court. I'd like to thank Wooddale. I think they've done a great job in working with the current neighbors there, so that I appreciate. The only one thing that I would request is, I'm on the north side of the property, and there's talks about putting trees there. We haven't seen a tree list. If we could just continue the cooperation of working to see what trees would go there, it'd be really interesting, what would go there. I think it's important, if we could have a say, that would be great. And I'm not just talking for my property. I think all the neighbors along that side would like to talk about what we put there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's usually doable, so we'll make sure to throw that in as a suggestion, so thank you. Others? Going once. Council, do you
Well, I
want
would-
to move to?
Yeah, I'll move to close the public hearing and then see if we have other
Perfect.
questions.
Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, council, let's see if there's any other further conversation. I have a few thoughts, but I'll allow all of you to speak first. Anyone wish to say more?
I guess I would just say that, I think this is a really needed product in Eden Prairie. I hear from a lot of people that, they're looking for a place to exit from their large family home where they raise their kids and stay in Eden Prairie, but find a place that's smaller on a single level. And so I think there's a real need for this kind of a product, and I'm glad to see that it's coming to Eden Prairie, because I think it'll go very fast. And it looks like it's going to be a nice product, and I assume that with that price point, you're going to have a fairly high level of finish in the units.
Yes.
Others? Maybe while you're thinking, I'll go ahead and share some comments. Back on this, when I was part of the Senior Issues Task Force in 1995, one of the recommendations at the time, because Eden Prairie did not have a lot of senior housing, independent, single family, disconnected senior housing, we recommended that we do that, and the trade-off would be we would get more density, and we realized that we might be marketing that concept to neighbors, because historically we've tried to match zoning and match the type of housing to the neighbors around it. What's really great about senior housing in many different ways is you can get more units of density in. At the same time, the intense use on city infrastructure is less. Seniors drive less trips per day. They don't have children in schools typically, maybe grandkids. They use our parks a lot, but maybe not in the same ways that baseball fields and football fields get used. And so we find that there's less infrastructure use. And so you can actually have more density, which raises tax base, which also meets the needs, in this case, of our changing demographics. So we did that over the last 20 years. We really have made a concerted effort across the city to do really this kind of project. So I applaud the neighborhood that you're comfortable with a little bit more density than what's in the surrounding neighborhood itself. I also think we had a housing workshop this evening before we came up here down in the Heritage Rooms. And one thing that we're finding is that across the 7-county metro area, the predictions of housing shortages at all income levels, all ranges of housing, is intense by 2030 and going into 2040. That, not that, so many cities don't want to grow too much, right? People that are already here don't want to see a lot more density. The reality is that across the Minneapolis, St. Paul, 7-county metro area, we have to pick up somehow 65,000 affordable houses alone, and possibly up to 150,000 or so more homes, that just to have people live here. And that's across the nation. I've read figures that we're 7 million short. So the idea that we as Eden Prairie might be doing our small incremental part in projects like this, I applaud. I think this is a good thing. Just a couple quick things. Mr. Ellis, I completely get the issue of trees with potential right-of-way. We do have that issue that we love trees in the city, and of course we've argued for boulevard trees forever, and I understand totally the impact. But maybe there are compromises. You know where those lines are. Maybe there are areas some smaller trees could go in. I like the idea of screening. I like the idea of trying to work with this developer to get some trees in there. The other issue, and this doesn't fit this developer, so don't get too excited, Mr. Sweeters, but I do believe that when we looked at heritage trees, in my mind, I never was considering silver maples. Now I have silver maples in my yard. With all due respect, I love trees. I'm a tree lover. With all due respect to people that love silver maples, and if silver maples have personalities and they're listening, they're weeds, and they grow quick. They are. They're basically very fast-growing weed trees. They do supply shade fairly quickly, but they're a mess, and they're just horrible.
Not as bad as cottonwood.
No.
That I remember. I remember cottonwood.
Maybe.
That was bad.
We'll debate that offline. But the point is this. I don't mind them. I mean, if people want to keep them, that's fantastic. The concept of a heritage tree as we were defining it, Kathy, earlier on in the last couple years, I guess we were envisioning the grand oak, right, or something that we truly wanted to preserve more. These silver maples, I actually was out talking to, is Randy the owner, I believe, this evening, earlier before the meeting, and he planted them, and he'd been there since '76, I think, and I believe that totally. My silver maples we have pictures at my house when they were really tiny, so they're about 70 to 80 years old, which is very old for a silver maple. So the point is, the concept of heritage tree, I think, is being stretched. So I just want us to, as a city, relook it. You came in under those conditions, so that is what it is, but I'm concerned about that ongoing. And then just the point about the pipeline, that traverses, I believe, all 6 miles of Eden Prairie. It's got to come in from somewhere, and other neighborhoods deal with this and cope with it. And I believe it's across the street from my house in those baseball fields by Grace Church. So we've lived with it comfortably for all these years. It's as long as the neighbors don't plant trees there. And I realize there will. I don't know if we'll mark that. That's the point I guess I'd like to make, is that marked with carcinite markers of some sort so people are really well educated about that. Okay.
Yes, Mayor Case, I believe in Magellan Pipeline, maybe used to be Williams Pipeline manages that.
I knew it as
They
Williams,
do
yeah.
Outreach every year with the city. They do market, I believe it maybe one end, possibly two is going in with the development. I think that came up during the Planning Commission meeting. There was discussion about maybe having 2 markers for this development area, so that it's well known.
Sure.
That it's not a active
Excuse me there,
planting.
but it will be marked on both ends, but it'll be on all of our literature.
Sure.
And everything,
Absolutely.
so everybody will be well aware that there's a gas line.
I also, today, I just wanted to check with the homes. Let's see, it's up on the map there. So the homes on the west side, that immediate homeowner wasn't home when I knocked, but the one next to it, I did talk to a Nikki this evening, and just to check about concerns, issues, are generally the neighbors on the west side okay with this? And I was also concerned that when we connect a road through, even though in this case there was a huge marker at the end of the road, this road is going through, right? And it clearly was not a cul-de-sac area. So I mean, everyone that moved into this little stubbed road knew that it would someday be connected. The other thing is, I think it's really smart by the city to have these plans where we do intend now for the 25, 30 homes on the west side to be able to have a better way out. And so I think this is really good. And again, I applaud the neighbors all around that this kind of a project is being so well received. So thank you. I think that's all the comments that I have. Council, did I spark any other ideas before we take a vote?
I'm still concerned about the side yard setbacks on this Price home. I'm going to support it, but I think the houses are small for the price, and I think the side setbacks are small as well. Would expect a little different kind of development from this, but I know it is something that's at least fairly popular with people at that size. But I guess in the future, I expect to see us getting a little more for the narrow setbacks.
What do you say more about that? What do you mean by getting more, like a lower price point, or
Well, something. There's a lot lower land price when you're taking away. Instead of doing 10 on one side, 15 on the other side, doing 7.5 on either side, you're cutting back from the front, you're cutting back from the back. And, we do have a number of these around town. They're at multiple price ranges. And, but we are giving up something to go to this kind of development. And, I've always hoped, and in most cases, we have gotten a more average person price because of the smaller land size. This doesn't have it. It maybe fits the neighborhood pretty well, but I would urge staff to look for more in the future when we're doing these small side bets, because I guess I'm not going to vote yes forever if it's always super expensive stuff.
It's Eden Garden.
Yeah, I forget.
It's Eden Garden, I think.
I was paying attention most of it. Thank you so much. I appreciate your comments. But you sparked something in my mind, too, that we have tried artificially at times, again, not with city money, but to incentivize to do certain things to get down. I forget the Lesuski property. I forget what the development ended up being down by Homeward Hills and Riverview Road. It was up on the bluff, and we got 60 some acres of trade down the bluff in exchange for density up on the hill. And I wondered today, I'm guessing those homes, which are very close together, 0 lot line, I believe, and I believe they're highly priced today and reselling at a high rate. I guess my point, Kathy, I completely get what you're saying. To me, what we would get would be what's good for the people of Eden Prairie. So we'll put higher density in if we get something. This is my thinking. I'm not lobbying you to agree with me. I'm okay trading something if we get something for the people of Eden Prairie. If we get open space, if we get higher park cash fees, if we get something, but just to get something that the market itself will sustain, I'm not sure that I go along with that. So if the market will sustain, and if there are 17 families that will jump at this, 17 senior couples, families, something that will jump at this, and I'm guessing there are, because you have other experience selling these off at the 550 to 650,000 range, then that's not, I don't think, up to the city to govern the financial aspects to that. And to me, I don't know what else we would get, except that we are getting higher tax base, which is significant. And we're also getting a product that I think is more and more and more needed across the Twin Cities. So I do appreciate, I'm not minimizing your concern, and I understand your feelings on wanting, maybe even vicariously living into this, wanting a different look or a different feel, but I think there are families that would be fine with this. Do you want to respond to that, or I don't mean to?
Well, it's, like I say, this product could easily have the 10 feet and 15 feet. And
it might drive the cost up more, though, right? Because the land
it
value.
certainly would.
Yeah.
But that is what most homes, are like. And whether it has a basement or doesn't have a basement, I don't know that that's particularly good or bad for any age group. It's what somebody's willing to do. But often we have gotten, some break because we're giving them a break on lot size. They can cram more into it. And that ends up with a price that's still I was thinking cheaper would be still something that's 50, 75,000 above the average price of home in Eden Prairie, but this is going to be a lot more. Like I say, it's just, I would like to look for this kind of thing that isn't quite as expensive many of the times we're doing it in the future, because I think we will do it a lot. That is, not everybody wants a big yard, but I don't know. It is what it is.
Thank you, Councilmember Narayan.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is one of the development, it's win-win-win scenario. When I talk to the neighbors, they are happy. Only concern they were saying, they wish they knew that property on sale and they could have done something. That's the only concern I heard. Otherwise, it's good. And it's good for developer because you already did all the ROIs and calculations, all that. And definitely, it's good for the city. One of them that Mayor talked about is senior take less resources from us, city, and also we get more taxes. So all those perspectives win-win-win. Again, one concern I have is, or concern, I wish you add more sustainability aspect, from the get-go. Have, which you can discuss with the staff later. Is anything you can incorporate from the beginning? That'll be great, rather than the homeowner going back and changing all the different aspect of it in the house to maintain the low sustainability aspect.
All right. Any further council comments? I'll entertain then a motion on the next 4 bullet points.
I would move to adopt a resolution for planned unit development concept review on 5.9 acres and approve the first reading of the ordinance for planned unit development district review with waivers on 5.9 acres and zoning district change from rural to R1 9.5 on 5.9 acres, and adopt a resolution for preliminary plat of 1 lot into 17 lots and 7 outlots on 5.9 acres, and direct staff to prepare a development agreement incorporating staff and commission recommendations and council conditions.
I second that.
And just to underscore, that's the one comment you heard from the public about just connecting with neighbors on types of trees if you're able to. I'm sure there were others. I just wanted to underscore that. All right. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Welcome. Thank you so much on your 17th or 18th project.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you working here in Eden Prairie.
Yeah, it looks like a great development. We're excited.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our second public hearing of the evening is ground storage water reservoir and pump station. Mr. Getchell.
Yes, Mayor and Council, the City of Eden Prairie is requesting approval to construct a ground storage water reservoir and a pump house. The property is located between Highway 212 and the Minnesota River Bluff Regional Trail, approximately 1,400 feet east of Eden Prairie Road. This property is former MnDOT right-of-way that the city purchased for this use encompassing just over 6.5 acres. Our city utilities manager, Rick Willeen, is here to provide a presentation on this project, and staff, being the applicant, could answer any questions that you would have prior to or after public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Getchell. Mayor, council members, I'm really excited to be here tonight. This is a project that I've been looking forward to for a long time, and I'm so very glad to be able to be here tonight to actually show you what we've been working on for months and months, and to actually be able to explain to the public the need for such a facility that we have in our plans. As I begin to introduce this project, I think it's very important that we provide an overview of our important public works function that not only provides an important public service to the community, but also recalls an important time in our community's history, which has been forgotten by many, many people and only memorialized in photographs and a wooden sign downstairs in our museum. Eden Prairie's legacy of proactive planning and preparing its public water infrastructure for future populations and business needs did not end when we expanded our plant for the third time. And this particular plant that we have, our city fathers had the foresight to understand that large quantities of potable water for users with discerning expectations, users such as kidney dialysis, distillers of deionized laboratory-grade water, and so forth, has led to even today where modern brewers are finding that Eden Prairie's water is a consistent and reliable quality that makes the water source particularly suited in a stable preparation of their recipes. A lot of communities have variable water supplies over time, which makes the brewer's art that much harder to define at any given moment in time. Our most recent water public improvement project is the design and the construction of a planned 4 million gallon water storage facility to ensure that our community is well served by its public water supply for generations to come. So why do we need this? Eden Prairie's population, as you know, is expected to grow considerably in the next 20 years. By some estimates provided by the Metropolitan Council, by as much as 20,000 people. Eden Prairie's existing water system has all the treatment capacity that we need for that growth. However, our ability to serve and effectively distribute our treated water has experienced a number of challenges over time since the last treatment plant expansion, not the least of which is a lack of capacity when one or more of our existing water reservoirs is unavailable for use, such as what we have experienced every year since 2014, when each year we took a tank out of service to repaint it. Another factor in this decision is the realization that not all of our existing water storage is available for use because of hydraulic limitations in our system. This makes our 8.5 million gallons of constructed storage actually more like 6.5 or 7 million gallons that are ultimately available to the public, which is just barely above our average daily demand. Should we ever experience a water system emergency of an unforeseen nature that would take our water system or our water production capability out of service for more than a day, we would be challenged to provide water to the public at anything more than our most basic and base rate that we have experienced over the time that we've been measuring water. For this and other reasons, your water utility has been laying the groundwork for a new water storage facility for many years, and we began planning in earnest in 2015 to bring this project to fruition. Since 2015, there's been a number of planning steps necessary prior to the actual engineering design of this facility. These steps included the construction of a digital hydraulic model of our distribution system to evaluate various water usage and production scenarios against how the existing system performs. Also included was a lengthy and deliberate site selection process that I'll highlight in this next slide, in which 14 properties were selected as the most viable water storage sites in our city. And we measured factors such as the hydraulic performance of the pipe network to service each site, the complexity of acquiring the property necessary for the site to be placed, the amount of additional construction necessary to connect the site to large diameter water mains, and of course, the cost of each option, especially where large plumbing changes were necessary in the community nearby in order to make the site work with our existing system. This brought us the most favored site where we are currently planning to build the facility. This aerial view of the site shows the planned facility immediately northwest of US Highway 212, just east of Eden Prairie Road, and bordered on the northwest by Hennepin County's Regional Rail Authority property that serves as a public trail managed by Three Rivers Park District. The land was owned by MnDOT when we identified it as our most viable site, and we purchased that property through a series of steps in March of 2018. We are currently in the last stages of acquisition of the access lane to this site, indicated in red on this graphic. MnDOT is drawing up the legal property transfer documents, and we expect to receive their offer for the remainder of the property by early to mid-March, perhaps even sooner. This site provided us with an unforeseen opportunity to highlight a portion of Eden Prairie's historical past by its proximity to the first city center of the village of Eden Prairie. On this slide, you see a blue star, which indicates the approximate site of Eden Prairie's first railroad station. This was known as the Washburn Depot. This site is just south of the current Washburn-McCready Funeral Home and at the proximate site of Resurrection Life Church on Glory Lane. The original Minneapolis and St. Louis Railroad that passed through Eden Prairie and served our community was along the existing railroad grade that currently carries the regional trail. This is a view of the Washburn Trail Depot looking east towards Minneapolis. This photo was obtained from our museum downstairs, and this began the planning for our second public service function of this new public works facility. This is an early design view of the water storage reservoir site looking to the southwest, envisioned from a location above and northeast of the site. Our parking apron and access trail configuration through iterations of design have since changed since this view was created, but it gives an overall good impression of the site layout, including a pump station design which is artfully representative of the Washburn Depot. It's complete with an optional wooden water tank and a railroad spur indicative of the site. This is the most current view of the planned property layout, showing a drive around at the rear of the building as a rear access site for semi-trucks and a straighter pathway between the regional trail on either side of the front of the building. I'll explain the pump station in a couple of slides with respect to its historic design intent. Key features of the site plan include design components prepared with specific purposes in mind. I'd like to start with access on the site, or access to the site on the west and working across the drawing. Underground utilities, water, sewer, electricity, and gas are planned from the most expeditious connection points, and permits with Hennepin County and Three Rivers Park District are required and agreed to beneath the regional trail, and for all trail connections shown at the 3 locations near the top of the image. Construction access and egress to the site will be from Eden Prairie Road, entering along the new property being drawn up by MnDOT, and exiting back out along the regional trail itself. This is a solution that was suggested and even approved by Hennepin County Regional Rail Authority. Permanent access will be provided on a 14-foot wide rural-type asphalt lane, intentionally sloped to cause rainwater runoff to accumulate in a ditch that lies between the road itself and the existing regional trail. A stipulation of our rainwater runoff plan is that all stormwater on site must be accumulated on site, must be managed on site, and infiltrated to the greatest extent possible. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. The water accumulating from the access road will gather in a detention pond that is created alongside the trail, and it's important to note that the design stormwater infiltration plan for this particular site actually improves upon the natural infiltration that currently exists in its natural state, and it could actually help with water quality issues in downstream waterways. I'd like to point out this area that we were just talking about in this overhead. The red indicates the area which shows us access to the site. On the top portion of the image, you see a crossing beneath Eden Prairie Road. That's where the connection will be made to the water main that it currently exists on the other side of the road. The red indicates the pathway to the site that will ultimately be our access lane. Beneath that lies the water and other utilities that will serve the site. There will be a 24-inch water main that is installed that currently does not exist in that location. The bump out to the south, that little square addition to the lane itself, that is a stormwater infiltration pond, and that collects water from the road and doesn't allow water that is captured on the road to impose upon any other property that's owned by MnDOT or Hennepin County. The lower portion of the view carries the western half of the access trail all the way to the property which we currently own, on which the site will be built. We can switch back to the other view. The stormwater pond on this view, which is highlighted in green, collects water from all impervious surfaces on the construction site and is designed to infiltrate the water through a series of sand beds that we discovered in our pre-design investigation of the soil conditions. Just southwest of the pond will be the gated access to the site, which is actually the second gate between Eden Prairie Road and the facility. A gate to prevent vehicular access from entering the lane which we will be constructing to access our site was required by MnDOT as a condition of conveyance of this property to the city. They would prefer that vehicular traffic don't accidentally take a right turn onto this lane and find themselves stuck on a dead-end road. In the center of the truck turnaround is a teardrop-shaped island in which the emergency power generator will be installed to provide just enough electricity to power the site to make it function at the city's base demand of water use. Surrounding the southwest and southerly exposures of the site, I'll point to that with my cursor, is a large berm. This earthen berm will be constructed to a height of approximately half the height of the water reservoir itself. And the berm will obscure all but the top from the highway. If you're on the Highway 212 eastbound, you'll be able to see the roof of the dome. However, we plan to plant a series of pine trees on the top of this berm, which will provide additional natural screening to obscure the dome when those trees are mature. I will show views of that in the rendering. The tank itself is constructed into the hill slope. A slope maintenance path surrounds the tank itself. At this portion where my cursor is at on the asphalt apron, you will be able to see a wall height of approximately 21 feet at the side of the tank if you are standing on site. However, that's beneath the berm and it won't be visible to the public. As you follow around the perimeter of the tank to the south and back again to the east, there is a 15-foot wide lane constructed surrounding this tank that gradually grows uphill to a point where on the east side, between the highest ground and the tank itself, only 8 feet of wall is exposed. And then it begins to slope back down as we go, where'd my mouse go? As we go back down to the north and back around to the parking apron. So the tank doesn't have a standard wall height around the perimeter of the tank, but rather it varies, and it's partially buried within the hill slope. If you look at the tank from the trail itself, There will be a decorative fence between the tank and your vision. The fence will be narrow iron bars such as you would see over at our Market Center water tower, the clock tower area. They won't actually obscure the vision of the tank, but it will kind of detract from the actual appearance of the tank and draw one's attention away from it. There will still be a portion of the tank visible above that fence, but depending on how the tree plantings turn out over time, much of that tank won't even be perceived by the public until they get directly opposite from the facility. So our intent is to draw as much attention away from the large tank as possible. The decorative iron fence will be 8 feet in height. The last feature I would like to point out on this view is the public trail access to the site shown by the yellow angled strips in the top. Here's one that angles off to the west, and here's one that angles off to the east. The approaches to these trails are specially designed to provide sightline for people who are using the trail as bikers, so that if someone is exiting the trail as a pedestrian, the bikers can see them with sufficient warning to be able to avoid a collision with a pedestrian. And lest I forget, the decorative fence on the north will tie into the building coming in from the east, but as the terrain allows, when this fence goes around the backside of the property, when it becomes out of view to the public, it will transition to a standard chain link fence with three strands of barbed wire. That saves us a considerable amount of money, and it's not necessary to have something quite as decorative in a utility fashion like that. So our next slide shows a rendering of the pump station designed to represent the character of the original train station. By providing a public trail access point, the intent is to create educational signage which explains the historical nature of this facility to trail goers, as well as sharing the unique public works mission of the entire facility. You'll notice the decorative fencing to the left of the structure, the end wall panels on the left wall. These are inspired by the 3 windows that were part of the original building design. On this next view, we see that the building design draws significant influence from the historic train depot building itself, without attempting to recreate the exact size, shape, materials, and layout of the original. We chose to do this in order to facilitate the new program and function, utilize modern materials and construction methods such as our building code will allow, and to satisfy the general need for increased security and reduced maintenance of the structure. Working with the required elements for the function of this building, we maintained the long and narrow footprint for the building while adding a loading platform, which gave us an opportunity to include the unbalanced overhangs and the slightly changing flatter pitch from the original building. We plan to use a wooden type siding material and will work with the supplier to obtain a narrow but cost-effective exposure. One thing I should note that it was a real challenge to get a long skinny building to contain a municipal pump station of the size and design that we really needed to serve our tank. The pump station itself is actually beneath this. The platform where the public can approach and walk across, that is actually a portion of the roof of the pump station which lies beneath the station. So it's about 15 to 20 feet wider than the building. It's like you have a large pump station in the basement, and the top end is kind of a different function. In this next view, you see the primary and end elevations. We pulled some of the unique and specific design details from the original building, including the curved soffits. You can see here we don't have an angled soffit structure, but it's actually curved. That's just like the original building. Also, we see flared window trim at the top of each window. By the original design, it was a full 6-inch wide piece of trim at the top, which tapered back to about 3 inches, going down most of the length of the window. We kept that, thinking that would be replicating the original design of the structure. The historic sign, we've also noted that the sign downstairs has rounded a rounded configuration on either end. We're going to change the design to actually look exactly like what's downstairs. This view shows us the south side or the back side of the pump station, which is inside the security fence. I should note that the tank in the background is actually about 10 feet higher in this rendering than it would be in real life, but it shows the portion of the tank wall that is at its highest and how it would be visible from behind the building. This is where employees would enter, and as necessary, we may have ventilation structures included in the building that would not have to be architecturally visible to anyone else, but on the backside, who cares? It really actually makes the building much more functional. This view is the front of the structure visible to the public. It shows the platform. We've added a regional map of the Minneapolis and St. Louis Railroad. It's just an idea at this point, but represents an example of signage that could be developed to better explain the historical nature of the display in collaboration with the Historical Preservation Commission. Note the double swing door. That's representative of the 5-panel doors that were in common use back in the 1880s. And the very functional light panels above, just below the roof line, provide a significant amount of light to the interior without electrical lighting necessary for that purpose during the daytime. This is a view from eastbound US Highway 212. This rendering shows a view from the roadway, which is about 37 feet below the height of the highest berm elevation surrounding the facility. You can see the tank in the background. This view actually shows what you would see with the existing trees were they not to change. The tank, although not visible in this particular drawing, would be directly behind the largest tree visible in the middle of the drawing. So as these trees mature and develop, if they are left alone, those trees are on MnDOT property. They're outside our construction site completely. Just the obscuration provided by those trees would be considerable and would make the tank that much less noticeable to the public. So with that, I brought my set of plans with me. If there are any other questions that you might have about the facility, we're very excited that we can do both a public service function for water and a public service function for signage, history, and something that we really expect to have a lot of public support.
Thank you for your
Thanks for the presentation this evening. Mr. Getchell, just before we begin to go through the process here with the public hearing, just to be very clear, the presentation was on the details, but tonight we're only being asked to approve in concept the PUD, correct? And then also the zoning change. Is that so?
That's
at some point
correct.
You'll come back to us on funding of this and the building specifically, and whether we do that small decorative tower and things or water.
So I'll let Robert answer the second question, but the first question is, this is land use approval.
Right.
That is correct. I know that the money is budgeted in our capital improvement program for this too. We've been talking about this for a few years. When it comes to bid specifications and bid timeline, Robert can probably answer that.
Mayor Case, so I guess what we were thinking is that if the approvals of the zoning, the waivers were approved tonight, we would go directly to bids, and we would be bidding that water tower, the old wooden water tower, as an alternate, as well as the train tracks as an alternate. So when the bids come in and we come back to the city council with a recommendation for a construction award, we could evaluate whether or not those components would be included in the project or not.
Okay.
But the next stop back to the council after tonight would be for a recommendation on a bid award. So in effect, you would be approving the design concepts of everything you see tonight.
Right, correct. Council, before we open this up, this is a public hearing. Any questions you have? Ooh, we do.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure who was first, but I haven't started with Councilman Barajo yet, so I think I'll start with him and then
All right, thank you. My assumption is that then the access to the public to the building through the trail system is really the only way to really get to effectively to get to the building is if you're on the Hennepin County Trail, or I suppose you could come if you walked in from Eden Prairie Road.
That's correct, and it's intentionally provided as a kind of a way stop for people who normally access the trail.
So with that, it looks like my assumption is that no one can enter the building. There'll be no entrance into the building for anything inside the building. It'd be just to look at the outside of the building and walk in front of the building. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I assume that it would be nice if you had some kind of, if it's a way stop, you could have benches and things like that for people to rest, and maybe a table if someone wanted to eat a snack or something like that.
Sure, that's entirely within the possibility of this site.
Yeah, all right.
I'll go right to Councilmember Freiberg, but just 1 second. Speaking of that, and since there is water available, I mean, would it be possible to throw a water fountain there? I mean, it just seems like if it's a way station.
Mayor Kay, so we have been talking with Three Rivers Park District because we would love to partner with them on some of these amenities because it is their trail users who will really benefit from this. So those are discussions ongoing. I think we have a vision of what we'd like to see here.
Sure.
Right now, it might not totally align with their vision. We were thinking bike fix-it stations, a place to get fill your water bottle, have your animals if you're walking your dog along, places to sit, have lunch. I don't know if they're there yet. So I guess we'll have to continue to have those discussions. But that's kind of what we think.
Nice to see some alternative
really
possibilities, and certainly would love to have their partnership. Councilmember Freiberg.
Thank you. One thing I have to say, I'm amazed what this building looks like. There's no question that we need the water capacity. Like you said, it gets critically close. It's within 1 million gallons. And the effort that went into the designing of this building, I spent 3 years in the Heritage Preservation Commission, so I got a real fine appreciation for our past. And am I right in it, we're going to have an interpretive sign there explaining?
Yes.
I think it's outstanding. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Councilmember Narayan.
Couple of questions, clarification question. When you drive on 212, you will see the top of the dome?
Currently, yes.
And what do you see? Just a white dome, or do you?
Well, the actual construction of the dome itself would be using a colored concrete to allow it to blend in with the natural terrain as much as possible. We're looking at design options for that, but generally a buff or a earth tone, brown, off-green color tends to work pretty well in other communities. So we would want a bright white dome.
So we will not have any kind of sign like behind you in the water tower like other places, or anything like that. Just curious.
Well, there wouldn't be enough of the tank to show a sign like that, and we're really hoping to minimize the visibility of that. We don't want to call attention to passersby that there is a water facility there if we can help it.
Okay. The last question. I saw a high grass area next to the building.
Yes.
And I didn't see any trees. Is that you cannot put any trees there? And the grass I see is just dry grass. Is any other type of, we are trying to do other type of wild prairie grass, and that's kind of theme we're working through different parks and so on.
Yes.
So I was wondering we consider that.
Well, we thought it would be appropriate to follow through with the city's plan to have prairie grass throughout as much as possible of our other city-owned properties, and do likewise here. Minimizes maintenance and makes it thematic with every other property that we're working on.
And can we add more trees there?
Well, there's two things that we were asked to do when we were consulting with Hennepin, or with Three Rivers Park District, and that was to not plant so many trees along the trail such that it interferes with visibility from users of the trail itself. And also, the terrain that you see in the rendering is not exactly duplicative of the terrain as it will be when it's finally constructed. There will be a low area and a ditch and a water collection area between the building itself and the trail. So the placement of trees will be
Yeah. Would you speak into the mic? You're not speaking into the, yeah,
Oh,
great, thank
sure.
you so much.
Well, the placement of trees will be maximized as much as we can, but there will be some areas that will need to be left open, so.
Thank you.
And of note, we will take a lot of trees out, but as Mayor Case noted about another site, most of these are weed trees, and they're planted so close together that they're actually rubbing on one another and making one another unhealthy. So I think we'll be doing the neighborhood a favor by replanting trees farther apart that can mature and have the space to grow.
Yeah, great plan, thank you.
Councilmember Nelson.
I like the project. I do like the idea of having human and pet water at a water station. So,
Pet water, okay?
well, something that you can feed your dog if you're walking or whatever else you're walking, and something you can get a drink of as well, I think would be a very nice touch that maybe we can manage. I won't try to go into your negotiating ability, but I think it would be a real nice touch.
All right, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the council on this project? Council, why don't we make a motion on all of it and then give you a chance to have any additional discussion?
Move to close the public hearing and adopt a resolution for a planned unit development concept review on 6.5 acres, and approve the first reading of the ordinance for planned unit development district review with waivers on 6.55 acres and a zoning district change to public on 6.55 acres.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This is exciting. Thanks for your presentation tonight.
Looks like a great project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Getchell, we do have one third fairly perfunctory here public hearing. Go ahead.
We do, Mayor, council members, on occasion, we have to vacate drainage and utility easements that requires a public hearing. So in this case, this easement is related to the Abra project that you approved a few meetings back, and so the property owners have requested the vacation of the easements that we approve and support in facilitating their new construction.
Great. Council, any questions? Okay, let's see. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the council on this vacation? Not vacation, but we're vacating public right-of-way. All right, council?
I would move to close the public hearing and adopt the resolution vacating the easterly 5.00 feet of Lot 1, Block 2, Augusta Addition, Hennepin County, Minnesota.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, payment of claims. Is there a motion?
Motion move to approve the payment of claim as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Aho,
Aye.
Councilmember Freiberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Narayan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Mayor Case.
Aye. All right, we do have an ordinance and resolution, a first reading of an ordinance tonight. Council. How about City Manager Getchell?
Thank you, Mayor Case, council members. We have some cleaning up to do, housekeeping to do on our ordinance related to our fire code, Chapter 9 fire code. And you can see in kind of the packet here in the background, there's like 5 or 6 different changes that we're making. I'll highlight 1 or 2, and we can certainly answer any questions that you have. You know, first and foremost, we want to keep our code current with the updates that occur with the Minnesota State Fire Code and the International Fire Code. So we want to find a method, which we do with so many of our other codes, that just mirror state codes, that when those are updated, ours are updated. So you see quite a bit of that. We've got an update in terms of our terminology and the term fire code official as opposed to fire marshal. And probably the biggest item, the biggest change that I would note is we are embarking on a new system, a new third-party vendor software system called Compliance Engine. And that's going to allow the city to track the registration of fire alarms. And this is kind of a new product and method that we're seeing throughout the metro, where a city would engage another company at no cost to the city to track all the fire alarms that private businesses would have and keep up with their inspections and their maintenance, as opposed to our staff having to do that. So this code updates, or actually this update provides us the ability then to work with this new web-based compliance tool to track our inspections. And that at a future meeting, you may see a contract with Compliance Engine to do just that.
Council, any additional comments or questions? I would entertain a motion then.
Motion moved to approve the first reading of an ordinance amending City Code Chapter 9 relating to Minnesota State Fire Code and fire alarm systems.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Mr. Gretro, I believe that's all. Is that correct? And we had no additional council reports. Unless there's anything else to come before the council, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
So remember, though, you're coming back here next Tuesday.